Hello everyone, and a massive welcome back to Learning English with Noel. I'm your host, Noel, broadcasting to you live from sunny Krong Battambang.
And hi everyone. I'm Sarah, joining Noel remotely today, ready to unravel some of the trickier, but definitely more colorful, parts of the English language.
That's right, Sarah. After our exploration into the world of idioms last time, we thought it would be fun to dive into another fascinating area that often trips up English learners: common English slang.
Absolutely. Slang is what makes everyday English sound so vibrant and relatable, but it can also be super confusing if you're not in the know. It changes so quickly, too.
Exactly. Unlike more formal vocabulary, slang is constantly evolving. What's cool one year might be so last year the next. But there are definitely some common slang terms that have stuck around and are really useful to understand.
And that's what we're focusing on today, those more enduring and widely used slang terms that you're likely to hear in movies, music, and casual conversations with native English speakers.
So, whether you're trying to understand the latest TikTok trends or just want to sound more like a loca, when you're chatting with English speakers, stick around. We've got a whole bunch of slang to unpack.
And as always, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button, subscribe to Learning English with Noel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future language adventures.
All right, Sarah, are you ready to get this slang party started?
Absolutely, Noel. Let's do it.
So, Sarah, before we jump into specific slang terms, let's talk a little bit about what slang actually is and why it's important for English learners to be aware of it.
Great point, Noel. Simply put, slang is informal language consisting of words and phrases that are regarded as very informal, are more common in speech than writing, and are typically restricted to a particular context or group of people. It often develops within subcultures, age groups, or even specific regions.
That's a clear definition. And it's important to remember that slang is usually very context-dependent. What might be perfectly acceptable among friends might be completely inappropriate in a formal business setting.
Exactly. You wouldn't want to walk into a job interview and start throwing around slang. It's all about knowing your audience and the situation.
So, it's about understanding when and where it's appropriate to use, but also just being able to understand it when you hear it. Because, as we said, native speakers use slang all the time.
Absolutely. Ignoring slang would be like only learning half the language. You'd miss out on a lot of the nuances and cultural references.
And slang can also be really expressive and add a lot of personality to communication. It can make conversations feel more relaxed and relatable.
Definitely. It's like the seasoning in the dish of language that adds flavor.
Okay, I'm hungry now. But before we get too sidetracked, let's dive into our first slang term, shall we? Our first slang term is one you hear all the time and in various forms. Chill, chilling, and chill out. Sarah, what does it mean to chill?
right? So chill as an adjective generally means relaxed, calm, or easygoing. If someone is described as chill, they're usually pretty laid back.
Exactly. You might say, my new roommate is really chill. He doesn't get stressed easily.
And chilling as a verb or gerund means relaxing or spending time leisurely. You might say, "What are you doing tonight?" And someone might reply, "Just chilling at home."
And then we have the phrasal verb chill out, which is a command or suggestion to relax, calm down, or stop being agitated. If someone is getting stressed, you might tell them to chill out.
Exactly. Hey, don't worry about it so much. Just chill out. It's a very common way to tell someone to relax.
So, it's all about being relaxed and not getting too worked up about things. It's a pretty positive and common piece of slang.
Definitely, it's something you'll hear across different age groups, although the nuances might vary slightly. Good point, Noel. It's quite versatile. Okay, Noel, my turn. The next slang term I have for us is bye.
By now. This is one that definitely gained popularity in the last decade or so, particularly online. What exactly does by mean?
Bye is a term of endearment used to refer to a person's romantic partner, such as a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife. It can also sometimes be used to refer to someone you have a strong affection for, even if it's not romantic.
So, it's like sweetheart or darling, but perhaps a bit more modern and informal.
Exactly. You might see someone post a picture with their partner on social media with the caption, "Spending the day with my bye."
I've also heard it used in a slightly more playful way, sometimes even towards food or objects that someone really loves.
You're right. You might hear someone jokingly say, "Pizza is bye." It's a bit more tongue-in-cheek in those situations.
Do we know where this slang term originated?
There are a couple of theories. One popular theory suggests it's simply a shortened version of baby. Another theory, which gained some traction online, suggests it's an acronym for before anyone else. However, the shortened baby explanation is generally considered more likely.
Interesting. So, mostly used for romantic partners, but can have a slightly more humorous or affectionate use as well.
Precisely. But definitely be careful who you call by. It's generally reserved for people you're close to.
All right, Sarah, back to me. My next slang term is salty. Now, salty as a flavor is pretty straightforward, but as slang, it has a different meaning. What does it mean to be salty?
When someone is described as salty, it usually means they are annoyed, bitter, or upset about something, often in a petty or childish way. It implies they're holding onto a grudge or are still bothered by something that happened.
So, it's like they have a bad taste in their mouth about something.
Exactly. Think of the unpleasant taste of too much salt. Someone who is salty is often complaining or making negative comments.
Can you give us an example of how someone might use salty?
Sure. Imagine someone loses a game and then starts making excuses and being a bad sport. You might say, "Wow, he's being really salty about losing."
Or she's still salty that she didn't get the promotion last month. It implies that they haven't quite gotten over it.
Right. It often has a slightly negative connotation, suggesting that the person should probably just move on.
Where do you think this slang term comes from?
The origin isn't completely clear, but some theories link it to the idea of sailors being away at sea for a long time, becoming grumpy or salty. Another idea connects it to the unpleasant taste. It's one of those slang terms that seems to have evolved over time.
Interesting. So, if someone is being negative and complaining, you might just say they're being a bit salty. Good to know.
Okay, Noel, my next slang term is a bit more nuanced: shade or throwing shade.
Shade. Now, literally, shade is what you find under a tree on a sunny day. But figuratively, what does it mean to throw shade?
To throw shade at someone means to insult or criticize them in a subtle, indirect, or sly way. It's often done with a seemingly innocent or polite tone, but the underlying meaning is definitely negative.
So it's not a direct insult, but more of a backhanded compliment or a subtle dig.
Exactly. It's about being shady, hence the name. Someone throwing shade might say something that sounds innocent on the surface, but has a hidden, critical meaning.
Can you give us an example of someone throwing shade?
Sure. Imagine someone says to a friend who just showed off a new expensive bag, "Oh, that's certainly a bag." The tone and emphasis could imply they don't actually like it, without saying so directly. That's a bit of shade.
I see. It's all about the unspoken meaning and the way it's delivered. It can be quite subtle, and sometimes you might even miss it if you're not paying close attention.
Precisely. And shade itself can also be used as a noun to refer to this kind of subtle insult or criticism. You might say, "Did you hear the shade she was throwing?"
Is throwing shade generally considered rude?
Yes, it is. While it might sometimes be used in a playful or humorous way among close friends, it generally has a negative intent. It's passive-aggressive.
So, definitely something to be aware of, both to understand and to use cautiously. All right, Sarah. My next set of slang terms all fall into a similar category. Words used to describe something as really good or impressive. I'm talking about dope, sick, and fire.
Ah, yes. These are all positive adjectives used to express approval or admiration. Let's break them down. What does dope mean in this context? Noel.
Dope is used to describe something as very good, cool, or excellent. You might say, "That new song is really dope," or "Your new sneakers are dope."
And sick. Obviously, literally, sick means unwell. But as slang,
As slang, sick has the opposite meaning. It means amazing, awesome, or really impressive. You might hear someone say, "That skateboard trick was sick," or "Your guitar solo was sick." The contrast with the literal meaning is part of what makes it slangy.
exactly. It's like, so good it's almost unbelievable or out of the norm in a positive way.
And finally, we have fire. What does it mean for something to be fire?
Fire is another way to say something is really good, excellent, or stylish. It often implies something is trendy or on point. You might hear, Her outfit is fire. Or this new restaurant is fire.
So, all three of these, dope, sick, and fire, are generally interchangeable ways to say something is great. However, are there any subtle differences in their connotations or when they might be used?
There can be slight variations, and it can depend on the speaker's age and social group. Dope has been around a bit longer. Sick can sometimes imply something is extremely impressive or even a little bit extreme. Fire often has a connotation of being stylish, trendy, or energetic. But overall, they all convey strong positive approval.
Good to know. So, if you want to compliment something in a casual way, you could say it's dope, sick, or fire.
All right, Noel, my next pair of slang terms are opposites, low-key and high-key.
Low-key and high-key. These have become quite popular, especially online. Let's start with low-key. What does it mean if something is low-key?
Low-key and high-key, these have become quite popular, especially online. Let's start with low-key. What does it mean if something is low-key?
So, if someone says they're having a low-key birthday, it means they're not planning a big celebration?
Exactly. Or if someone says, I'm low-key obsessed with this new show, it means they like it a lot, but they're not shouting it from the rooftops. It's a more subdued feeling.
And what about high-key?
High-key is the direct opposite. It means obvious, openly, very enthusiastic, or intense. It suggests that something is very clear or that someone is being very open about their feelings.
So, if someone says, I'm high-key excited about this trip, it means they're very obviously and openly thrilled?
Exactly. There's no hiding it. Or you might say, it's high-key obvious that they like each other.
These are really useful for expressing the intensity of feelings or the nature of plans in a casual way.
Definitely. They add a nice layer of nuance to everyday conversation.
Okay, Sarah, my next slang term is a powerful one, slay.
Slay. This is a fun one. Literally, it means to kill or slaughter. But as slang,
As slang, slay means to do something exceptionally well, to impress greatly, or to be very successful or stylish. It's a very positive and enthusiastic term of approval.
absolutely. If someone performs really well in a competition, you might say, you totally slayed.
Or if someone is looking particularly fashionable, you could say, your outfit is slaying.
Exactly. It conveys a sense of doing something with confidence on achieving great results or looking fantastic.
So, it's like a more dramatic and emphatic way of saying you nailed it or you look amazing.
Precisely. It has a sense of power and accomplishment.
Where do you think this slang usage came from?
It's been used in various subcultures, particularly within the LGBTQ+ community, for a while to express admiration for someone's performance, style, or confidence. Its mainstream popularity has grown more recently.
It's definitely a term you hear a lot, especially in online contexts and when talking about achievements or appearances.
My next slang term, Noel, is all about feelings and atmosphere, vibe, good vibes, and bad vibes.
Vibe. This is a more abstract one. Literally, it can refer to vibrations. But as slang, what does it mean to get a vibe or say something has good vibes?
Vibe as slang generally refers to the overall feeling, atmosphere, or energy that a person, place, or situation gives off. It's a kind of intangible sense you get.
So, if a place feels welcoming and positive, you might say it has good vibes.
Exactly. This cough has such good vibes. It's so relaxing.
And if a person makes you feel uncomfortable or gives you a negative feeling, you might say they give off bad vibes.
Precisely. I didn't trust him. He gave me bad vibes. It's a way to express an intuitive feeling.
You can also talk about the vibe of an event or a gathering.
Right. The party had a really fun vibe. It captures the overall atmosphere and feeling of the event.
So, it's all about that unspoken, emotional energy you sense from something or someone. It's a really useful way to describe something that's hard to put into concrete words.
Definitely. It's all about that feeling you get in your gut.
All right, Sarah, let's bring back a familiar concept with a slang twist. Our next term is tea and the phrase spill the tea. We talked about spilling the beans with secrets. So how does tea fit in?
Right. The party had a really fun vibe. It captures the overall atmosphere and feeling of the event.
So if someone asks you to spill the tea, they want you to tell them what's been going on, especially if it's a bit juicy.
Right. The party had a really fun vibe. It captures the overall atmosphere and feeling of the event.
It's quite a playful way to talk about gossip. Where do you think this slang term originated?
The exact origin is debated, but one popular theory links it to the Southern American tradition of gathering for tea and sharing stories. Another theory connects it to drag culture, where spilling the tea became a way to share gossip in an entertaining way.
Interesting. So, it's all about sharing information, often with a bit of excitement or anticipation.
Precisely. Just be careful not to spill tea that isn't yours to share.
Mood. Just one word. How is that used as slang?
Mood as slang is used as a relatable feeling or state of mind that someone expresses or that you identify with. It's often used as a reaction or a statement of solidarity.
So, if someone posts a picture of themselves looking tired and someone comments mood, it means they relate to that feeling of tiredness?
Exactly. It's a concise way of saying I feel that way to or I can relate to that. It expresses a shared emotional state.
You might also see it used as a standalone sentence to describe someone's current feeling. Like if someone is looking particularly happy, you might say, "That's the mood."
Precisely. It captures the prevailing feeling or vibe of a person or situation. It's a very versatile and often used slang term online and in casual conversation.
It's like a shortcut for expressing empathy or shared experience. I like it. Wow, Sarah, we've covered 10 really common and useful English slang terms today. I hope our listeners are feeling a bit more in the know.
Me too. And just like last time, let's do a quick fire round to test our understanding. Noel, I'll give you a scenario and you tell me which slang term fits best.
I'm ready. Hit me with them.
Okay. Scenario 1. your friend is incredibly excited about their upcoming vacation and can't stop talking about it. How would you describe their excitement using slang?
That sounds like they're high-key excited.
Great job. That is a correct answer. Scenario 2, you hear some interesting gossip about a colleague and your friend leans in wanting to know everything. What do they want you to do?
They want me to spill the tea.
Scenario 3, you're at a party that has a really relaxed and friendly atmosphere. How would you describe the party?
It sounds like the party has good vibes.
Perfect. Scenario 4, your friend is complaining about something minor that happened earlier and is still clearly bothered by it. How would you describe them?
They're being a little salty.
Fantastic. And finally, scenario 5, you see someone walk into the room looking incredibly stylish and confident. How would you describe their entrance?
They totally slayed.
Excellent, Noel. You're a slang master.
Thanks to my brilliant co-host. And just like with idioms, we received some great questions from our listeners about slang this week. Sarah, let's tackle one or two.
Sounds good. Here's a question from Ahmed in Egypt. Is it okay for English learners to use slang? I don't want to sound silly.
That's a very valid concern, Ahmed. As we mentioned earlier, context is key. It's generally fine to use common slang with friends or in informal situations, once you understand the meaning and usage. However, it's best to avoid slang in more formal settings, like job interviews or presentations.
Exactly. Start by focusing on understanding slang when you hear it. Then, as you become more comfortable, you can start incorporating some of the more common and widely accepted terms into your casual conversations. Observe how native speakers use it.
Another question here from Maria in Spain, not the same Maria as last time. How can I keep up with new slang? It changes so fast.
That's the challenge with slang, Maria. It's constantly evolving. The best way is to immerse yourself in the language as it's used by native speakers. Watch contemporary TV shows and movies. Listen to popular music and pay attention to how people communicate on social media. You'll pick up new slang terms naturally over time.
And don't be afraid to ask if you hear a slang term you don't understand. Most people are happy to explain it. Language learning is all about asking questions. Well, that's just about all the time we have for today's episode of Learning English with Noel. We hope you've enjoyed our slang deep dive. It's been a lot of fun. We've decoded chill, buy, salty, shade, dope, sick, fire, low-key, high-key, slay, vibe, tea, and mood. Hopefully, our listeners are feeling much more confident about understanding and maybe even using some of this slang. Absolutely. Remember, the best way to learn slang is to hear it in context. So keep listening to native speakers and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Learning English with Noel, for the video version of this podcast and tons of other helpful English learning content.
And we always love to hear from you. Leave us a comment below with your favorite slang term or any slang you'd like us to explain in a future episode.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep embracing the ever-evolving world of English.
Bye, everyone.